So yeah.
Let's put Fred Boat away. I know how much David's a fan.
Awesome.
And yeah, welcome to the Pinballers. Brennan, why don't you take it away? The,
What's up?
sh- the show be yours, and I'm gonna put up the Pinballers graphics and stuff.
Cool. Yep. What's up? Pinballers again. Thursday, 6:30.
Time to
We're
party.
back. Time to party. So I guess just to start it off, there was a lively discussion going on earlier in the chat about Austin's uh snag of the week, I suppose. Austin, what do we have going on over at the Smith house?
Well, as you all know, I certainly don't want to make myself the center of attention, but yeah, you're right. It seems like we've been on an acquisition roll as of late, and so I'd mentioned previously on one of the episodes that I'd really like to get a Metallica, and of course, as we all know, David has a Metallica. So
Also, he's beaten the wizard mode in Metallica.
yeah, yes, he has.
I just wanted to point that out.
Absolutely. So that's my, I guess that's my next task at hand. But I'd mentioned previously I had an opportunity to buy one locally,
hmm
and at the time I didn't really know the pen that well and didn't realize how much I was going to love it. Of course, I love the band, and so I had another opportunity present itself to snag a Metallica pen, and of course I had to pay with a lengthy drive to get it, but it presented itself I think last Saturday, and I already had some time scheduled off from work, and so I went out and made the deal and picked it up.
Now, do you
With with
only?
with with, with Tracy telling me to do so. Of course, she's like, you
Of
need to
course,
go get that pen.
of course. Oh, I know. She's bigger in this than you are, so
She is.
I know,
So
I
that
know she
that's
is.
a. I'm just representing the household, really. She's the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you talk about buying a pen, this is not just a pro model that someone's had for a few years and is selling. The pictures of that thing, it's beautiful. It is already had mods on it, which it's making, my wife is going to be pissed at you, Austin, because I'm going to have to go out and spend like $1,000 on mods now because I've seen how amazing your machine looks.
Oh yeah, well, thanks, and at the same time, yes, I apologize because you're right. It's a pretty well appointed pen. I know we talked about obviously Metallica on a previous episode, but we didn't necessarily talk about the uniqueness of this pen. So it comes in a pro level. It has two premium versions. So the premium versions that were available, and I'm sure David knows this, and maybe some of the rest of you out there do as well, but it's unique in that two premium versions were available. There's a Monsters edition, and then there's a kind of a road case, I think was what they refer to it edition. And that road case is it highlights the Metallica band members, and then it's kind of got the gray, metallic gun gray that is the road case edition. And then the picture that you're seeing here, the Monsters edition, has a more characterized version of the band. I kind of like this version because it is a bit more colorful. It's kind of got that Dirty Donny kind of artwork feel to it. And then of course they had the LE, which is a master puppet. Oddly enough, I dare say, oddly enough, I had someone reach out to me like literally as I was driving out to pick this one up, it was north of Bentonville, Arkansas. So it was about a 300-mile trip
Oh
one way,
man.
600 total. I literally had someone message me and say, "Hey man, I'm going to sell my Metallica LE." I'm just like, really? After I've already like literally cut the deal on this premium. But I don't regret that, even though I am a big Master of Puppets fan, and that LE's in Master of Puppets scene. This is a really nice pen, yeah, and it's got a lot of mods on it. It's got the mirror blades. I've never had a pen with flipper fidelity speakers, and I've got to be honest with you, I'm kind of smitten with them. So for those of you out there wanting to upgrade the sound on your pen, the flipper fidelity speakers are awesome, and you got a couple of different sub options, so you don't necessarily have to do the external sub like a lot of people do. It's got a snake mod on it. That's more of a look and feel type thing. And I think I mentioned in chat, I I had the option of going with Penn Stadiums as well as the mirror blades, and I think it's an either or thing on this game. The game is so well illuminated, the mirror blades
Yeah,
really do it justice without
it
the
doesn't
Penn
need Penn
Stadium.
Stadiums for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Penn Stadiums on mine.
Oh, you're going with the creeping death blades, aren't you?
Yeah.
I definitely would. I think the Penn Stadiums with those blades would be awesome.
So for those who may not know, Pin Stadiums are an aftermarket mod that you generally align on the sides of the machine on the inside, and it illuminates it. I don't know if this machine has it or not, what we're looking at on the picture, but you sync it up with the machine in such a way to where it interacts with the different features, and it's not necessarily just an LED strip. You know, it'll flash, blink, change colors. There's multiple settings for it. It's a pretty popular lighting mod, um, and not super inexpensive or anything, but in certain games it makes a massive difference. Alice Cooper being one of them. Basically, darker games, it can completely change the entire feel of a game. But
Is that a color DMD on there as well?
Yep.
Yeah, it does have a
Nice.
color DMD on it too. Yeah, for sure.
sounds like you struck gold.
Hey, what's the difference? So I'm shopping my DMDs. What's the difference with an LED or an LCD?
So the liquid crystal display, obviously, it's a little bit cheaper. It's got a little bit more of what I would say a kind of caricatured look to it, meaning that it's almost like if you were doing the display with a felt tip pen. Now I got to be honest with you, I've got both. I've got the LED and I got the LCD. Yeah, I've got the the light emitting diode. That's a higher res version. The LCD is a little bit lower res. The LCD is actually on Walking Dead, and I kind of like the characterized version that it gives, that kind of felt tip pen quality, if you will, on for some of the creature effects. On the Metallica, what you're seeing there is an LED. Oh, and the Flipper Fidelity speakers. I was looking at it. I don't think the current kit comes with this, but those illuminated speakers actually came with the Flipper Fidelity kit at the time that they bought this one. So kind of a double add on, if you will, for it. But the LCD is a little bit lower, but don't let that fool you. In some games, the LCD actually could be a better option for you, and the LED is just a little bit higher res. So that's the reason why you're paying a little bit of price premium.
Thank you.
We have an LCD on our World Cup Soccer, and whereas in some games I might prefer an LED, LCD is better for like cartoony graphics,
Yes,
of
yes.
which World Cup Soccer is all cartoon looking. So if you have some more like realistic animations going on the screen or the display, it might be better for an LED. But uh, for goofy stuff like Striker the dog and all these funny soccer animations, it just made sense to do LCD because it looks cartoony and it helps accentuate that a little bit.
I know.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree with your statement 100%. That's spot on.
I
Cool.
know Matt's sticking around because he had a question about one of the new games at Free Play Arlington.
Yeah, we got to unbox and put together a brand new Stern Iron Man.
Hell yeah!
Which the first time I heard about Iron Man was from you, Brennan, and so that's why I was going to ask. Like, it was my first time playing it. I wasn't really too familiar with the rules, but like I told Chris, like I think it was like the sixth time I hit the flipper, I hit a multi-ball, and I was like, "What?" Like,
Oh yeah,
I didn't understand what was happening. The thing has like 4 or 5 different multi-balls that you can
yeah,
activate,
it
and
does.
yeah. But I was kind of wondering, like you owning the table and also having such high praise of it, I was kind of wondering, like, what are some of the intricacies of it that I need to be looking for while I'm playing it? Like, what is it that makes it so good to you?
It's one of those games where stacking modes is sort of the goal to hit a high score. That being said, part of the reason I love it is exactly what you described, in that you can get multi-balls almost without trying. You have those ramps that are also a lot of fun to hit if you're just trying to have fun with it too. You're not worried about the scores, so it's mostly about stacking multi-balls. The main ones being Ironmonger, the guy who comes out of the middle. and War Machine, which is that kicker sort of in the upper left hand of the playfield that shoots it back towards your flippers. The idea is to get Ironmonger started and then finish off, or sorry, get that War Machine started, which is that kicker that I was just talking about, and then finish off the Ironmonger, which you start by shooting it straight up that the center of the playfield. The spinners activate that. So at that point, you'll have a 4-ball multi-ball. If you time it right, you can keep the ball save going for a solid 20, 30 seconds, and just really kind of blow it up from there. But yeah, there's 3 multi-balls, none of which are, well, I say that the War Machines are yeah, War Machine's kind of hard to start because that's a tight shot on that kicker. But other than that, you can, just like you said, you can just kind of play around and you will likely start, and that's kind of where the challenge comes, is it's hard almost not to start one of these. You may accidentally start the War Machine, which comes out of the middle of the playfield, or the Whiplash, which has the toy. It almost looks like Doctor Octopus from Spider-Man. He's a kind of on the right side of the playfield, and he's
Does
got
he
a
look like
magnet on
Mickey
him.
Rourke?
He's got a. It's. I guess it's from Iron Man 2 or 3. I don't know. I've only seen the first one, so I
Yeah,
don't
two.
recognize
Whoa.
what he looks like. But he's got a big old toy above him. And he's got a magnet that will drain your ball if you're not careful about it. But both of those are pretty easy to start and also really intuitive if you're just playing the game for the first time. You are going to be smashing it anyways, just by instinct. So, yeah, it's really just about stacking War Machine and Ironmonger for the big points. And I think one of the coolest modes that I've ever played in terms of intensity and shaky fingers feeling is if you complete every mode on ball 1. And so that's completing all 3 multi-balls. That's completing the bogeys and the drones and everything, which are the ramps and the stand-ups, and Iron Man, which are the drop downs on the side, the left and the right side. You start a mode called Do or Die, which lights the center spinner right dead center at the back of the playfield for 30 million if you hit it, and I think you have like, I want to say like 15 or 20 seconds, something like that. So it's like, and 30 million is a ton on that game. You'll make the board probably with 20 million. So getting 30 million for one shot's incredible. But yeah, it's a really like fast, flowy game. It's a game that if I really feel like getting into the details and playing and really focusing, you can make sort of deep. But if you're just, whenever I've had friends over or whatever, it's a great game for that because they can just walk up and start a game and stuff happens. So that's why I think it's going to be really, really cool to have on location. I'm definitely going to go play it this weekend.
Well,
Wow,
we
yeah.
got
I
it.
like. I love the sound on it.
Oh, it's got great sound. It's got really good call outs. I'm eventually going to get a color DMD for that. And that maybe want to do LEDs on because it's kind of a little bit of a crisper animation. So yeah, I mean, it's a game that I had little to no opinion about before I had a chance to buy it, and now I think it's one of the most underrated pins out there. I really, really like it, and it's awesome that I didn't know you had one lying around or whatever, but I'm super happy to see it out on our free play floor.
Behind the scenes, I can tell you we got ours about the same time you got yours because
Oh wow.
I remember them coming in like in the box and seeing the Iron Man in the box, and of course like the shutdown happened right then too. So
Yeah.
we've had it this whole time.
And it's got a new code on it too. It adds a skill shot and a couple other really nice quality of life changes. So it's a good time to have Iron Man.
No one's mentioned it. Is Black Sabbath on the soundtrack?
It's pretty generic music. No, I don't think Black Sabbath is on the soundtrack at all. And if it is, if it's on the Vault version, I don't know because I just have the Pro. But I kind of doubt it. It's pretty generic,
Okay.
like rock music. But no,
It,
I don't
it,
think
it,
so.
it samples some of the score from the movies, but I don't know if it actually has the Sabbath one on there.
Yeah, I don't think so. But either way, fun game. If and when tournaments get back up and kicking, it's a great tournament game. Short and sweet. Nobody's going to be staying on that thing for too long in all likelihood. So I will definitely be up there to hopefully set the grand champion on Sunday.
Awesome.
I did like hearing Jarvis. That was really fun. Like when you started up and he's like,
Oh yeah, no, you get a lot of
Flipper
really good
skills
call
are
outs.
active.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so fun. And when if you shake it, if you get
Yes.
a warning, he actually tells you, he's like, "Sir, you're about to
Please stop
tilt."
shaking the machine. Yes. It's got a lot of great call outs, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be a hit. If nothing else, just for the theme alone, which I think again is integrated really well.
You're going there Sunday?
I believe Sunday will be the day. I'm got hockey Friday, Saturday, so Sunday will be my free play day.
I feel like Sunday has to be the day for me too. Let me see. Depends. I got a Friday. I'm going to Richardson because players there. Saturday I'm going to Denton because the Killer Queen players are still playing the game up there. So I'm
Hell yeah.
going to go join them. And then Sunday's the first day where I kind of have a moment to be free. And it sounds like you're going to be there Sunday. I've heard some of the DDR players are going to be out there because I just picked up DDR in Free Play Arlington.
So what DDR players do we have, given that this is, as far as I know, the first time
I'm not
DDR has
shouting
been on
them
the
out
floor?
because if they weren't willing to come help Free Play before DDR, then they can go prove themselves on DDR. Whatever.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We need your help, dang it. If you're good enough to come out for DDR, you're good enough to come out for pinball or ST or just
Man,
whatever.
that's an intimidating game.
Yes. I can't play it anymore. I used to play it back in the day, but there's no way my 40-year-old back wants me to play DDR. Matt, how about you?
I made sure it works. that's about as far into that I think I can get.
DDR is not an old man's game. Not
Fair
at all.
assessment.
Not really.
It'll.
I have, and I still break out for my kids the PlayStation 2 with the red octane dance pads,
Mhm.
and like they need to exercise. Let's plug in DDR and let them go at it. So
I mean,
funny
it'll get
watch.
you some exercise for sure.
Yeah, it's funny watching like my 7-year-old just like trying to stomp and no beat, no rhythm whatsoever. They haven't yet reached that awareness that, oh, you hit the whatever direction on a beat. They haven't put those two things together yet.
Any
Fun.
game where you're on a literal stage with the potential of people watching is not for me.
The I played it. I played it plenty back in the day. I had a metal DDR pad. I picked up for way too much at Fry's back in the day. But yeah, very much retired and not coming back to DDR. I'm gonna enjoy the fact that there are more players at Free Play Arlington and see what else I can play with them or admire them dancing at DDR. But yeah,
We got to
my
find a
days
way
are
to
past
get you
me.
on there. We got to find a way.
I mean, I danced with Ono during our Japanese high score girl arcade because we've had DDR for some time in the vaults, but I danced once or twice with Ono, and then that was it. That was definitely telling. Where it's just like, man, winded, sure, I can deal with like getting into better shape, but the back actually hurts, and that's a bad sign.
We get enough Mr. Browns in you, and crazy things happen.
That's true. That is very true. That's not the only new table though. Iron Man. What else did you guys get, Matt?
Oh, they moved Funhouse to Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a chance to really crack into it yet. We'll do that tomorrow, but we just made sure that it's level and functioning. So we'll start tweaking it here pretty soon.
Can't
But
go wrong with it.
Funhouse is like one of my own personal favorites for just purely based on the fact that it's got a head that talks to you and breaks the fourth wall constantly.
It's hilarious.
And I love it, and it's super fun. And I don't know, just like way back when I was in the mid '90s, the first time I found that table, I was like, what is this? And I didn't care about pinball at all, but I saw that one and I was like, Funhouse, what? And then when you press start, it says Funhouse, and I was like, that's how I feel. Let's play. So So that just kind of got me hooked on it, and I like the music, and like the jingle gets stuck in your head, and the voice is like constantly telling you what not to do, which is what you should do. And so it's fun to just like the theme is you're running around crazy in a fun house, and once they're closed, that's whenever you got to make the skill shots and stuff like that. I don't know, just
Yeah, we actually did
Love that. Love that game. It's my all-time favorite. One of my all-time favorites.
just super fun.
Yeah, we did a Pinballers just on that table during the our forced staycation because I was able to. That was one of the tables that I had on the pinball arcade, whatever, the PS4 game that I was able to actually like show some sort of facsimile of the table. But yeah, I played it recently because it's in David's Richardson contest.
Yeah.
What do you think, David?
Do you just leave it or do you add another one? I don't know. What do I do there? I can't punish someone who got a good score on it, so I could add another game and still make it best 4 out of 6.
I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, I think
Right?
that's that makes sense.
I don't know if any other option makes more sense than that, but
Yeah, making
Give
it
me-
4 out of 6. Would you keep the fun house in Arlington on the Richardson list? Like, would that mean you were closing off the funhouse scores?
Gotcha. I mean, technically, if you want to, I don't know.
It's less than ideal. I definitely sent your list of 5 games to Matt. I don't know if you had to like step in, Matt, but
I will personally apologize for any confusion because it was a couple of weeks ago. I was actually in Richardson picking up parts, and I was kind of looking around the lineup that they still had after the cleanup, and I just offhandedly mentioned to Arthur that I like Funhouse and it'd be cool if it was in Arlington. And today it just showed up, and I was like, dang it. Because you had sent me that list, but I was not in control of it at all. It was everything was already here. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add Stranger Things, right?
Right, that makes sense. And that's the new table at Richardson.
has anybody played that extensively? I have probably 7 to 10 games on it, and I don't know that I have enough info to form an opinion other than I wasn't blown away at first, but obviously that could change. Has anybody had more time than that on it?
I don't. I know that Stern just dropped a .97 code update on it today, and so I don't know if that changes anything.
I mean, message Tommy then.
It's got to change something.
Arthur.
Yeah, it's got to change something. I can't. So this is a game I haven't played at all. I have seen it streamed, and yeah, I don't want to sound negative. I don't have, since I don't have the hands-on experience. I don't have an opinion on it, I guess is what I would say.
You know, ironically, this was one of the games. It's kind of like segueing into the next topic. I read a review of the game, and they basically said, yeah, the ramp shot that's like a key to the game on the Pro kind of stinks, but when you have like the Premium or the LE, that ramp shot's different. There's like a screen or something like that. I don't know.
Yep.
I haven't played it too much. And it's where it really makes a difference, having like the Premium versus the Pro on that table.
Similar things for some reason.
I played it. I've played it less than Brennan. If you've played it 7 to 10 times, but I have got the GC score in Richardson, so I've played some time on it. All the shots seem very hittable to me, like very hittable, even easy, I would say. If you can make the shot on American pinball tables, you would crush everything that Stranger Things has offered.
And that was not the issue. So I mean, the one I played obviously was not at free play, given that this just arrived today or the day before.
Right.
But it had issues where the ball was getting stuck around the Demogorgon in the middle,
Yep.
I
which
could
I've
see
heard
that
is
happening. It didn't happen to me, and that was through a good timed amount of play, including smacking the Demogorgon around. But it looks like it's a toy there that it hits, and some wild interactions happen with the Demogorgon. I'll put it that way.
from what I understand, it's not. That's not an issue that every game has. It's like there's a certain batch to where if you email Stern and you're having issues with that, they will send you the parts you need to replace that
Mm-hmm.
and fix the issue. But yeah, apparently that's not uncommon. That being said, I mean it has a pretty classic Stern, almost Attack from Mars-ish layout where you get your thing in your middle. That's very obvious that you need to be hitting at some point.
That game is
You got
very
your.
Attack from Mars or Medieval
It's
Madness.
it's it's very simple, which I appreciate, especially we're just talking about Iron Man, which is 2 ramps, some spinners, and some drop targets, and that's kind of it. Um, so it's very simplistic in that way. I think the theme is integrated really well. I've never seen the show, but it's very spooky sounding and looking, and that toy is cool. I had a real tough time actually like making it, but I guess it's supposed to be hard. That being said, I'm definitely excited to play a
You had
little
a
bit
tough time
more.
making that shot.
I did well because I would hit it, but you have to, and you get points if you hit the Demogorgon. But the like jackpot is if you get it in its mouth, and for whatever reason, I had a tough time getting it to launch into the
Gotcha.
mouth.
I've never had it I never had it launch into the mouth. I guess I didn't know if it could or could not.
Yeah, that's like a. I don't know if that's like I don't know the game well enough to say with any certainty, but that's like a jackpot or it's worth more points or something.
Mm-hmm.
But you get points for hitting it regardless, so it's not a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was going all around that table. It's the one thing that struck me as weird. Is and this isn't necessarily a complaint as a player. Uh, all the orbits and a lot of the shots sort of aim the ball at the top of the slings, which that's fine. I'll nudge it, save it. It'll be fine. In fact, it's a relatively stable nudge for me. And I control the ball again and keep and play on. But I've seen many players like have the ball bounce and then go into the out lane, just as I hit a shot, yay, it's in orbit, it smacks off the sling and it's into the out lane. I don't know if your experience was like that, but I definitely saw it happening quite a bit, and that seems odd, like odd design. I mean, like for me, it feels like just sort of training mode on subtle nudging, but since there aren't many subtle nudgers out there,
Yeah.
it worries me as somebody who's going to see that table on the arcade floor for potentially months and years.
Yeah, I mean that's not something I noticed necessarily. I was imbibing in a few beverages, and so I maybe just not was paying close enough attention.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that would be strange. You'd think that would be sort of worked out and the quality assurance
I
period of
would
that, but
think
the
I think it's probably intentional. Like
the
it's
only thing
it's
I could
too.
think of is maybe the angle is a little bit off. Like
Yep.
maybe it's a little too steep, a little too flat, one or the other. Um, that's the only thing I could think of because that would be a bizarre choice for that ball return to come
It,
right
it
down onto the slingshot.
It's really weird on the top of the slingshot on both orbits,
Yeah.
and like it just seems like all the shots kind of return at the top of the slings, which is a bit of a no man's land. Um,
Yeah, that's bizarre.
I'm not putting it past it being the design because that's the way Total Nuclear Annihilation is designed. Like TNA, you're supposed it's if you shoot it around the left orbit, it's going to come around the right orbit and smack off the pop bumper, and all hell's going to break loose. Or you're going to figure out how to nudge the table. Like that is part of the design of TNA.
It could be. I'm not ruling it out.
Yeah,
That
I'm
would
not
be
I'm
the
not
only
sure.
thing that'd be
It,
the only thing I could think of is that is just to make sure it's leveled right, and other than that, who knows? It could just be, I had a really tough time with that game even when the ball wasn't getting stuck. It kicked my ass pretty good, so
hmm.
it could just be that it's a hard
You
game. I don't know if it has that reputation or
you
not.
were drinking some beverages. That's why it was kicking your ass.
That's entirely possible. That is entirely possible. I did not have an easy time with that game. So, um, who knows? The ball was also getting stuck frequently, so we got frustrated and moved on to
Gotcha.
another
No,
game pretty quickly. But that being said, I'm excited to dig into it at my next trip to Richardson because it felt like I needed more time on it. I didn't walk away feeling satisfied.
yeah, I played it today. It's brand new. The ball's not getting stuck.
That's good news.
Yeah. So those
Yeah,
shouldn't be a problem this weekend for those going out to Free Play Richardson.
Yeah, Brennan,
yeah. I
you
was gonna
said
say
you were
a lot of
going
the
on
sling.
Sunday. Go ahead,
Oh,
also.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. Didn't realize I was talking. I was gonna say just a lot of the sling adjustments you mentioned they're actually quite common to a lot of the sterns, and you can actually adjust a lot of that out. You can move that outlaying post. There's a whole lot of things you can do there. Most of them you can even do adjustments of the strength of the sling from the menu. So that's not at all uncommon. I would just throw that in.
What I was talking about isn't the sling where it smacks it, right? It's literally the top because it's always like a triangle, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
the very top of
where it
the very top of the sling, absolutely, almost every stern, and it's actually a complaint on Stranger Things. So
Is
you
it?
hit it at the top of the apex,
Mhm.
and it goes to the outlane. That's an incredibly common
Yeah.
issue with stern, and you can adjust that out.
Gotcha. I don't even, that's up to them as far as the text. I figured it was part of it. Like I said, it was a simple nudge enough that I could get, I may have hit the wizard mode in that thing. I lit up everything. So it's very, very stable as far as like how you need to attack it. But if you don't nudge it at all, if you just let it go, it's going to go top of the sling and into the outlane there, dude, and you're done.
Yep. Cool.
A
Sorry,
short
David.
ball
I didn't mean
time.
to talk over you.
Yeah, having a short ball time on a game that's in an arcade is not the worst thing. So
True. David, what was your thought?
Well, I was gonna make a segue because I'm ADD
Mhm.
and I change subjects all the time. I just want to make sure Brennan understands because he said he was going to go Sunday to Free Play Arlington, and that he's played World Cup soccer. He knows that game real well. Just want to let you know I did beat Germany when I went there last week and put that score up on my monthly challenge. So
then I'll beat them twice. So done it before. I'll do it again.
I would like to see that. However, David, I can promise you I will not be doing that. I have no interest in putting that much time into the game.
Yeah, I would have to play the game for a long time to pull that off again. I was pretty much done after I beat them twice in one game. I can never bring myself to just let go of the ball and just walk away. But at that point, I was just kind of flipping around, almost hoping it would drain, just because it's kind of exhausting. You can do it pretty quick. It's not as long of a grind as say like Lord of the Rings or anything like that. But man, I will say that is one of the coolest. It's very simple, but it's one of the coolest wizard modes in pinball. I think is World Cup Soccer, where you are trying to beat Germany or whatever team you want it to be, because you can adjust that in the settings. But trying to beat Germany in the finals, and you get to plunge as many balls as you want, and I think there's a little strategy there. Um, you can adjust how hard it is to beat too, so how often the AI scores, quote unquote. Um, that's a ton of fun. It's not it's not a ton of fun doing it twice in one ball just because it takes forever, but we'll see. We'll see. You're not necessarily safe. We'll see.
so my score was just under 3 million, and I recall
3 billion.
Yeah, 3 billion. If it was under 3 million,
Yeah, 3 million.
then you
Shoot.
might
Yeah.
have me hit start. As it is,
Yeah.
you got it. You
Yeah.
got it, man.
So just under 3 bill, and I have a recollection of a place that I used to play at in Mass, where a pro put up a score of 17 billion, and I mean it was there forever. I mean it probably still is at 17 billion.
Yeah, that's like approaching world record territory. That's absurd. That being said, I could see it because
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the most challenging game. That's why I appreciate it. But that is an absurd score. That's beating Germany 6 or 7 times, something like that. That's absurd. So good for him. I don't anticipate putting up a score like that, but
It
or
was a
her.
her. It was a
And
her.
that shoot, even more impressive, dude. That's great.
you
Speaking
mean
of which,
even more
we need to get
impressive?
Shannon in here. Where's Shannon?
I don't know. I could message her.
Yeah, I'd love to get. We need more. We need more female pinball voices,
I don't
but
think. Can you and Amber be on at the same time?
it's possible.
Could always get Amber, and we could always get Tracy. I could coax her into joining us.
I mean, yeah, I would love to have a female voice in every Pinballers, to be honest with you. And
It
I
makes
know
sense.
I know
We
Amber
have,
and Tracy are a bit on the shy side. Shannon not so much. So that's why.
I mean, we have what seems like at every Monday Night Pinball, we have a very respectable female representation. So
Mhm.
it would be nice, but especially crazy during COVID time. So who knows? But
Yeah, I whether it's Tracy or Amber or Shannon or all three, I'm 100% down. Would prefer even.
regardless, that's impressive. 17 billion seems like you'd be
That's
standing there for literally an hour, but
I'm just gonna
good honor.
hard pass on that. Like I just like
Yeah,
congratulations, but that's one of those records where it's like after you beat the wizard mode, I'm done. I'm so done.
that's more of a mental game at that point, because I would just
Yeah.
be so tempted to just like almost hoping that it would drain at that point, because you're like, I have the grand champion,
Yep.
I have it, and nobody's even close. But to have the will to keep going is good for you. I couldn't do it.
I've definitely seen some insane scores watching other pen streamers out there. I mean, like one of the games you'd mentioned, Attack from Mars. You're doing a pretty good game at 9 or 10 billion. You're probably about 20 billion once you hit, ruler of the universe. And I saw someone they had one of the machines up streaming, and they came online. It was like 86 billion was the GC. I was like, oh, that's impressive. I think it's the highest score I've ever seen. Then another person came up right in behind them. Their GC was 272 billion. And the player said his dad put it on there, and he's seen him play to Ruler of the Universe twice on a single ball. That's
See,
nuts.
that's crazy to me. That's even crazier than the World Cup score, because in World Cup you can sort of just abuse the left orbit over and over again, and you will eventually, it will take forever because it takes forever to like travel that way, but you can kind of game the system that way. An Attack from Mars, you're having to hit that gate in the middle, and that is, the most
That's
dangerous shot in the
dangerous.
game. That's so you're having to your nudge game and your dead flipping and post passes, like that's got to be so tuned in if you are pulling that off. That is a crazy score.
Yeah,
I mean, they
that's nuts.
probably have the post adjusted. They're playing a 5-ball game. They're tweaking the extra balls. That's
Maybe
whatever.
if not, I mean, maybe, who knows. But that's crazy.
Well, two what was it? Two ruler of the universes in one ball. So
One ball.
yeah, so
One ball.
the
The thing is, once you start getting Ruler of the Universe and you really get that loop shot down,
mhm.
I mean, if you're really in tune on that game, I mean, you can just loop. So
Yeah.
your orbit shots are key. Of course, yeah, all those other things you mentioned have to be in place. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you can tune your own personal game at home to be really tight, really stingy or quite generous. Our tables are actually set up pretty stingy. In fact, I'll have to come in there and I'll probably be removing the top post in Metallica, really widen that out lane and do some other things to it to make it more difficult. I generally like playing them pretty tight at home.
It makes sense, right? It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to make the game that you have at home easier, because isn't the idea to to really, you can play it whenever you want, right? You might as well make it challenging, make yourself a better player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many
Yep.
people who make it easier, for sure.
Yeah, I don't either. And in fact, I was looking at some of the games we have, and once you start dialing them in, you're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize that could be adjusted. The casual user probably didn't realize that you can take, on some games, there's actually 2 or 3 different post settings for the outlane, and on others, you either put it in or you remove it entirely.
Yeah.
And so you can really make a game difficult. You can You can dial up the slings, you can dial them down. I mean, there's all kinds of sensitivities on switches that you can change, and just all kinds of crazy stuff. You can make them, very difficult or very generous.
That's kind of an underappreciated aspect of the hobby is, you can have five, Attack from Mars, Iron Man's, whatever you want to call it. Iron Man's a good example because this is probably on because it's on by default. I turned it off on mine, but there's a post that comes up when you launch the ball on Iron Man that stops the ball at the top because the pop bumpers are in the upper right. Think Star Wars. So it'll stop the ball up there at the top, and it will bounce around on those pop bumpers, and then the skill shot is basically as simple as pressing the right flipper once or not at all, and it falls in, and that was the skill shot um, until they updated it here a couple months ago to where it's like every other turn now. You can hold down the left flipper and that post will stay down, and then you have to make a shot or whatever. But so that's an adjustment. The post can be adjusted. The number of hits it takes to activate this multi-ball or that multi-ball can be adjusted. The ball save time can be adjusted. You can turn off the ball save. You can turn off extra balls. You could have 5 different machines that all play pretty distinctly, and some are harder than others, some are easier than others. Just because it's the same game, it does not mean that you're necessarily playing the same game, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of variants that you can get into if you really want to, and that's why I think owning a machine is rewarding that way, and that you can, are you starting to blow this game up and you just got it? Well, adjust it, make things harder, remove some posts, move things back, move things up, adjust settings. You have more room to play with than the the novice might think you do.
I uh I really would like to see pinball machines end after the wizard mode. Just the I mean
I don't
just
hate it. I don't hate that.
like a game where you wizard mode like 3, 4, 5 times. You've already proven it. I feel the same way about marathon games. I don't like marathon games because there is a point where you have mastered the table, and now it's a contest on how long can you stand up. And I'm never interested in that, and I'm not interested in pinball or in classic arcade games. But that doesn't mean I'm not interested in scoring well. Just put an extra rule in there where, okay, the game ends at the conclusion of the wizard mode. For example, Total Nuclear Annihilation does this. Then the game changes. Suddenly, it's about maximizing your score, and you have to play better with the time that you have with it. That being said, that affects like not even the top 1% of players out there, because like David, you've only beaten the wizard mode in Metallica once, correct?
Right.
Right. So even if it shut off at that point, that has affected you 0% in your game that you own. Like the amount of players affected by that sort of rule change across pinball would be next to none. But at the higher levels, goodness, I'm much more compelled by hearing that you got a world record. In fact, I care nothing for a pinball world record as it is, except for maybe TNA because of that rule. But like, because that's just you stood there, you beat the wizard mode, congrats. But beyond that, you just keep standing there and beating the game over and over again. If they had it there, then it would change the parameters entirely, and I would care suddenly.
Yeah, Metallica's a good example for that because when you are trying for end of the line, your goal is to finish your crank it up mode.
Mm-hmm.
Get in and get out so you can get to the next crank it up mode.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remove that where the game would end, a higher level player is going to say, "Hey, I'm going to do everything I can
Right, I'm going to maximize crank it up."
Right, to maximize each crank it up. I like that as a rule change.
Yeah, I think that would be. I really feel strongly about it that would be much better, and also like it would prevent stories. Colin tells this story, with pride, and I understand why he has pride in it, but like I find it horrifying as a tournament organizer that he played an entire game at TPF until like 4 or 5 in the morning that just kept going on and on and on and on, even with the 3 balls, right? It just kept going on forever, and he had to compete like 3 hours later in the next round after he won. And that sounds That sounds like a flaw in the tournament.
I'm 100% with you, by the way. I'm 100% with you. That's kind of nonsensical to me, and the fact that you can do it is awesome. Colin is an incredible world-class player.
And he was joined by another world-class player that was going with him shot for shot and making it go that long.
I would say leave that at home. I would say unless you legitimately have to, you have some guy right behind you, or I would say leave it at home. I just would because at the end of the day it's pinball. You know what I mean? At the end of the day it's a game. These are people who need to go to sleep, who have work in the morning, and that's why I think you're onto something with the I wish more games were like TNA, and that you beat it dies.
Yeah, I've never
There's
come
something
close
there's
to
something
the wizard mode
satisfying
of
about
TNA.
that, by the way. There's something unsatisfying about beating the wizard mode and the game restarting from where you were.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something very satisfying about being the wizard mode, and boom, there's your score,
Walk
done,
off.
everything. Yeah, light show, music, boom, the walk off homer. It makes a lot more sense to me the more I think about it.
And with
It would
pinball,
be
I don't feel like you're getting robbed of experience because generally wizard modes take like 20 minutes to get to, if not more.
It will take you've at least been standing there for 10 minutes at the slowest, and probably closer to 15 congruently with through all three balls if that's what it takes. And I just don't understand. It would be more congruent with every other game in the arcade, to which the majority seem to have an end point, whether it be a kill screen or a naturally designed stopping point. It almost feels like at that point you have broken the game,
Right.
and that's not fun for anybody except maybe the person doing it. That being said, I don't think I would have fun doing that, so I don't know.
I don't know. Like I know Lauren's experience. I know Lauren's experience with Tapper was fun, but I think it was the experience around it.
Right. It
wasn't
was
the
the
game.
hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not at that point. It's a chore. You're
Mhm.
you're washing dishes.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the hype around it. And I don't want it to be like that. I don't want
No.
pinball to be like that.
And it won't be for me. Like if that's what it
It
takes,
won't be for me
if that's what it
either.
takes, then I'm out, and
Yeah,
I'll
it
drain
won't
the
be for
ball, and
me
I'll be
either.
like, congratulations, you won. Drain.
Yeah.
Peace out. Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I like pinball, because, I think of all the games that I've done really well on, a 45-minute or an hour-long game is pretty rare. I mean, unless you're pro
Very
level.
rare, yeah.
And I know the games that I have played that long have been very satisfying.
Mhm.
Not to always bring the conversation back to Defender, but I know y'all talk about it frequently because of me. So
It's
I'll
important
tell
in
you,
this conversation.
the Defender is never a game that I would even try for the world record on, because it's 3 days plus. It is a 77-hour world record.
Yeah.
That's just I ever even attempt it.
You cannot
Even though I've
casually
played,
attempt it.
and I've played Defender for more than 8 hours on a game and walked away.
Mhm.
And I know people that are at world class level who've attempted it now that we're much older. And the last person I know that attempted it, he's an awesome player. I think he went for 30 hours and then he was just cooked.
Yeah.
30 hours is ridiculous. That's not even half of the world record. That is, you put that in perspective. That's nuts. That's just nuts.
And
It's
he's not proving anything to me in hours 30 through 60.
right.
So
We get it. You can do it. You know what I mean? If you had the endurance, you would be able to do it at that point. Shoot, even 8 hours at that point, I'm like, okay, I get it.
Mhm.
You've got this, dude. Like you have this down to a science,
Mhm.
and that
Well,
ruins a little bit of the magic. Getting games down to a science, right?
It does. And honestly, 8 hours, just so you know, that's actually 2 complete rolls through all 256 waves approximately.
Mhm.
And I was going for that just to make sure that there was nothing else I could possibly achieve. And so
Right.
once I aimed that was the case, and I thought it was probably the case because there wasn't all the information around at the time that I did that there is available now. I was kind of satisfied with saying that I've done everything that I know can be done on the game.
Yes.
So that was the logic behind it.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you too.
surprised you only rolled it twice in 8 hours, but I guess that shows how little I know about Defender.
Yeah, it's about a roll an hour. It's almost you can almost set your watch to it. I mean, you can hurry up, which is what Billy Joe Kane does, and you can cut that down to about 47 to 51 minutes. But you have to play really loose to do that, and so
But that's where the gaming comes in, and that's where I
Yeah.
start to like it again. Is when you change the parameters in a way in which you can't just stand there the whole time, and then the skill like transfers to something else, and suddenly it's
Right.
about how many points you can press in that amount of time, or there's all kinds of different things that can happen. Speed runs are a thing because of it.
I was about to say that same thing.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
why that category exists.
I hosted Arcus on the Free Play stream not very long ago, and I saw him up at Free Play Arlington. They were still playing it when I went out to Free Play Arlington. And this man, if you're not familiar with the speedrunner, he's the world record holder in the NES game Ninja Gaiden, speedrun world record holder. And this man is so beyond obsessed and so beyond the best to ever live. It's insane. He grinds it out again and again and again, looking for the RNG that would let his world record to be just a smidgen shorter. He can beat the game in something like 11 minutes, and there's no one close. And you watch him play, and one, it's sublime to see how good he is at this stinking game and how flawlessly he executes every split second of this game every time. And also, you get to see him grind it away anyway. If you care about like marathoning and endurance and what it takes to like be the best in the world at anything ever, you see that in him as well, because he plays again and again and again and again until you're tired, the audience is tired, everybody else has quit, and he keeps grinding and keeps grinding and keeps grinding. And it's just 11 minutes at a time, and the game ends, and he restarts it, and he tries to beat it quickly again. And it's the only way you can get that good. It's the only way he got that good. So you have like the marathon elements of it, of you playing the game way too long, obsessively so. But it's just changed it to where, that record is unassailable. Whereas we're talking about some of these marathons where it's like, well, that dude was able to stand on his feet that long.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, and that's just to bring back to pinball somewhat. That is a growing thing in pinball as well.
I've seen a speedrun on Star Trek as part of Games Done Quick, and I thought it was great.
There's a lot of room to grow there. When we talk about ways to spice up pinball competitively, we already have these competitions that can take different forms with a 3-strike thing, a round robin thing, points setup, whatever. Then you have pin golf, which is its own kind of thing that's been somewhat popular for a while, but that the speedrun aspect has a lot of room to grow, in my opinion. And the reason that there's somewhat of a barrier to entry there is that obviously you have to be able to beat it, and beat it somewhat consistently at least. And even if it takes a few tries, it's still impressive to beat a pinball table. So that's something that I would love to see. I would love to see someone speedrun TNA. I'm sure that exists.
Yeah,
I would
there's
love
a speedrun record in the machine. So.
I'm sure that exists, and I'm sure there's video of it. But to sort of expand that to more traditional games, not that TNA is not very traditional, sort of at its core, but to see that expanded, like what is the shortest amount of time somebody can beat Lord of the Rings? That would be a very fascinating experiment to find out, and also find out where could he have shaved time off, where did he lose time, he or she, etc., etc.
Could you guys imagine what that might look like?
I couldn't.
Like, imagine a player who got that as good as Arcus is at Ninja Gaiden. He got that good at Lord of the Rings, but that means like every single time that ball comes down, he hits another shot. It's an endless combo. This ramp, this orbit, that orbit. Everything. He controls every single shot, every moment of spin, every bit of random craziness that we think in pinball. He controls it down to the last shot. That kind of like human ingenuity is possible. I've seen it. It's just not possible given the framework of pinball like rules as they are now.
Well,
So
it depends. It depends on the game, and just to interject, because this is actually a subject I've been diving into a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the game. Depends on the mode you're attacking too, right? And like you said, wizard mode or not, a 900 million point score on not to always bring it back to a game that I know pretty well, but Iron Maiden.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a speed run challenge, and I think it's been done in under 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is a crazy, crazy fast pace to get to that. So you're talking basically about at the end of it, this one particular player that I saw do it in under 7 minutes had 1.4 billion points. Put it into perspective.
Yeah.
And so and then you think about the mode that's now available on Jurassic Park. It has a speed run element to it. So they're starting to implement some of this, and then there's also other modes where you can speed run them, and it's just been implemented by virtue of it being available. And it's exactly what you're saying. I mean, to do the 900 million point shot and on Iron Maiden in under 7 minutes, the person that was doing it made one error that could probably trim another 30 seconds off. So yeah, to your point, it can be done in the constraints of what we have in a lot of games already.
Yeah, and like what you're describing there, I could never imagine doing. Like as a pinball player myself, but talking to like having been in competition with someone like Kevin Rodriguez multiple times, I've never seen Kevin put up a score that I thought, I can't do that. But what you just described, I can never do that. That's beyond my ability because of the constraints of like you're doing it as fast as possible. No way. That's incredible. My jaw's on the floor. Whereas, typical pinball tournaments, typical pinball design, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going.
And that's why it would be inherently different in terms of, we're comparing it to the speedrunning that already exists in video games. Typically, there's little to no randomness involved there, and a lot of these games, you sort of basically you could almost do it with your eyes closed. You know exactly when this enemy spawns. You know exactly the little split second move you need to do here. Blah blah blah. But in pinball, there's no such thing. There's a lot of randomness involved in ball spin, and maybe it's that scoop. It just lips it off, or it doesn't register. But I mean, there's a million things that can go wrong that are you're losing time on, and so hypothetically the score could be improved on forever and ever ad infinitum because there's always time to shave off. No, it's a human process, whereas in a video game setting it's basically up to your reaction and your precision in terms of timing the buttons and the joystick and etc. But man, it's something that I think we're going to see more of as time goes on, especially in a quarantine setting, to where you can do that by yourself.
Now, one of the things I've noticed, and this is going to come as a shock to you, but there are some people who play video games and pinball that they are on the spectrum.
That's true. Robert Gagno comes to mind, to where I think he could do something like that.
And those people that they have, their senses are so much better than mine, and they can make some of those shots over. Like a good would be like a looping shot on Iron Maiden that just gives you points upon points upon points. And when you see people like that do that, you're just like going, I'm not going to be the best pinball player ever because you have people like this that they have superpowers when it comes to playing pinball that I do not have.
I like it. I like it. And I feel that way across all different types of games. As someone who has a world record and has been number one on some world leaderboards before, like. Nothing makes me less interested in a game than being declared the world champion. I'm done. I'm so done. I don't care anymore. To see a type of play that you're describing, David, like that's nothing but inspiring because like that's cool. That's cool. That's a level of skill. Like how awesome to always have something else to go towards.
So that's that actually it's interesting you brought that up, David. I have my degree in a field that works not exclusively, but almost exclusively in the world of autism, and I have a lot of time working with kids and adults on the spectrum. And there's a really really great documentary. I can't recommend it enough. Even if you're not interested in pinball in the least bit, I think it's a really great human interest story called Wizard Mode.
Okay.
And it is about Robert Gagno, who is a Canadian pinball player. I don't know if he's in the top 10 right now. He's a former world champion.
It's a very good one. I've seen it, by the way. It's good.
It's excellent. He's to the point he cannot live on his own. He lives with his parents, and they take care of him for the most part. He can he can hold down a job and things like that, but for the most part he's dependent on care. That being said, there's also a separate. This is not included in the movie Wizard Mode, but 60 Minutes did a piece on him where they analyzed his brain. They did a scan while he was playing pinball, and they found that he does not process things the way that a neurotypical person does while they're playing pinball. He is basically, without having to move his eyes, he can keep his eyes where he needs to. Most people kind of stare at or around the flippers during the multi-ball and are basically just sort of relying on a feel and instinct to try to hit the ball in the right spot and basically just keep the balls from draining. He is he's seeing every ball at once. And so to that to that point, he does. He almost, he's got a disadvantage in almost every other part of his life. But when it comes to pinball, he is incredibly gifted in a way that none of us could even comprehend in terms of the way he processes everything that's going on a pinball machine. It's a really, really interesting documentary. Like I said, even if you don't care about pinball and you're watching this, but if you are interested in pinball, it's a great way to spend 90 minutes.
Was
So
this
that's my
60
segment.
Minutes or was it Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel?
So the movie was neither.
Right, the movie was neither.
It
Movie
might
is
have
Wizard Mode.
the piece I'm talking about might have not been 60 Minutes. It may have been the Real Sports segment. That being said, the movie is called Wizard Mode, and it is not an HBO or a 60 Minutes piece. It's just a
A
separate movie.
documentary, yes. No, I'm
Yes.
looking
So
into
the
it.
way-
I'm interested.
The way that he sees things in the pinball, field or play field is different than like anybody else does. So you're saying he's kind of like the Tom Brady of pinball?
If you want to go that, it's like if Tom Brady had a superpower, and his superpower was
He does.
football. It is incredible. Yeah, it's really fascinating, especially from a scientific standpoint. But yes, if you're interested at all, I suggest looking into it. He's an
And
interesting guy.
I just added his channel. I'm actually a big fan of Roberts. I've actually watched a lot of his pinball streams. I watched him do an early Wizard Mode on Iron Maiden. I think he's the first person I saw that got Run to the Hills on Iron Maiden, which is like the ultimate Wizard Mode beyond even 2 Minutes to Midnight, beyond the Battle of the Beast. There's actually another mode beyond that called Run to the Hills. He's the first person I saw get there. So yeah, he's pretty. He's got a pretty sweet setup. If you've ever seen him play, he's got an interesting style of play as well. He's kind of
Absolutely.
seated and he's kind of hunkered down. So it's kind of like
he drops down to that half jacket. He's a big fan of the half jacket. Yeah.
And so he's got this posture that kind of belies the fact that he is taking it all in at once, right? But he's a great player, and yeah, you're right. It's an interesting story. His whole and he's got a really nice setup. His collection at home got some really nice pins.
It's excellent.
Yeah. So I followed him for a while. So it's actually I like that you were mentioning him. The links to everything that you mentioned, like the documentary, some of the runs that he's made on Maiden and everything, are on his YouTube channel. I haven't seen everything on his channel. I do subscribe to it, and I've seen a lot of what's on his channel. I think the only thing that's not there is the 60-minute piece that you mentioned. I think that's the only thing that's not there.
I think it's Real Sports.
Yeah,
Real Sports. Okay.
I think you're right. I believe you're right. That being said,
if
it's
you
all
have HBO.
available on the internet. Wizard Mode used to be on Netflix. The last time I checked, I didn't see it. May have been taken off, but I'm sure
it looks like
it's available
on
somewhere.
Sling.tv for free right now, and
Okay.
I'm gonna pick it up on Amazon.
Cool. Even better. So it's out there. If you're even remotely interested, I highly suggest it. I had a great time watching it. By the way, he is currently ranked 22nd in the world.
Uh-huh. And has a unique unique ability. So
Very unique ability.
So, yeah. Follow him
All
on
right.
Twitter. That's awesome. Yeah, I've kept you guys an hour. Oh, I guess let's go over the match play. Do you have an update on the scores? Can we know
would
where
love
everybody
Um,
is?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of people that have been participating or submitting their scores. Richardson has been the most active with I think 4 separate people I've played. I kind of have ended it for Arlington because I put up so much. My scores were so awesome. I
Uh-huh.
don't think anybody beats them.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Um, and Cross is just sitting back hoping no one goes to Fort Worth and beats his score. So, it's been fun. Looking at people's scores. Probably the people that have been going to Richardson and submitting. Uh, you know, it's been interesting watching them compete and put their scores up. It's been fun. I wish we had more participation, but what
Yeah.
can we?
Well, that's sort of why I'm bringing it up. Like, if we can get like some sort of update on what the scores are like at the moment. They're obtainable. They're out there. We're competing. So if you want to get out to any of the locations, let me post the link in the chat as well. There's a different competition on every single location, and I posted it. I actually posted it in
Yeah, saw that.
a few different places.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to, especially if you're participating and competing. Cross is probably checking every day, saying, "Oh, I hope no one went to Fort Worth and put up scores." So,
Mhm.
I mean, I need to get there, and we need to humiliate Cross.
I mean,
Just
I've got scores that I haven't posted yet because I know you said you were reviewing them each one, so I didn't want to like overwhelm with like, hey, I tweaked my score by just a little bit.
yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, I've got 202 million on Metallica in Arlington. Um,
That would
just
be first place if you submitted it.
right, and I will. I just like, and I'm not trying to hide it either. I'm just also trying not to
Yeah.
overwhelm if I submit scores over and over again. I'm not in any way interested in your World Cup score. You can have it. That one's yours. But yeah, I've got Richardson scores. I haven't gotten any Denton scores yet. Hopefully, I'll get some this Saturday. Although maybe I'll just get distracted by Killer Queen again, and that'll be happy enough for me.
Yeah, and see, I found myself like playing Firepower, right? Because Firepower is one of those games that's in Arlington where it's relatively simple. The high score on the game is it's a little under 700,000, what have you. I think I put up in the mid 400,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's why we do that competition is so that you can play an old game like Firepower and say, hey, let me put up a decent score on this.
Yeah, I haven't reached my final form yet, but I can tell you I've already beaten every single one across the scores at Fort Worth. So I'll get to posting those when I post them. But
Hate to hear it. Talk a lot of trash, Whitlock. I'm gonna be real.
but go ahead and post them now
You know,
while you guys talk.
anything I could do to help spur competition because it's fun.
It is fun. It is fun, and playing helps spur the competition. So even if you're not up to snuff and you're not going to win, go ahead and go out there, play, post some scores if you're willing to. You're helping support free play. You're helping support an arcade that truly loves and cares about pinball and wants to survive this pandemic. So just the act of going out there, posting up your score, whether it's world beating or entry level, is legitimately helping free play get to the other side of a pandemic, which very well may take it away from us forever. So if you're doing that, then you're helping. So please do.
Man, I had a gut punch in one of the places that I played at in Boston announced like a couple days ago that they're having to shut down.
That is not off the table for any arcade in the DFW area.
Oh, I know. Flat Top Johnny's at Kendall Square. I mean, it's right in the middle of town. We would have in a league night, we'd have 40 people show up and play pinball league there, and you'd have the young people and the old people because Boston's a great commuter type town, and to see that place shut down and have that place for competitive pinball taken off the table, it's a gut punch.
Yeah. Say it ain't so.
It ain't so yet. I mean, that is gone. But for right now, Free play is open right now at this very moment. We will be open until 11 p.m. We will be open unless the government shuts us down between now and then on Sunday when you roll through Arlington and give Iron Man a try. So
we'll
we're
do more.
out there, and the crowds are sparse. So I'm not terribly worried about overcrowding, people being too close to me due to overcrowding. That's really not a thing out there at Free Play at this moment.
Yeah.
I would be honest with you if I felt differently. So if anybody is listening to me and they go out there, they're gonna have a fine time without people in their face.
Yeah.
That's kind of the hidden gem here, is that while that obviously sucks very badly that the crowds are so sparse.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if that's one of your complaints, especially that gets brought up all the time in Denton, as far as I know, is that it's always so crowded. Well, it's not so crowded right now, so have at it. You know, you kind of have your run of things, so
You do, and you'll have the great appreciation of Free Play and the employees there, and also like I'm not. The bar has changed for the world right now. It's not about like we don't want to be packed. We can't be
right.
packed. We would feel morally reprehensible to be packed right now. That's not happening. It's just a matter of like getting to the other side. And as long as we survive, as long as Free Play survives, then everybody associated with that will be happy to be on the other side of this and happy to rebuild Pinball and Pinball Monday and Spring Series Pinball and every other part of it, because building this was always our passion. And I'll be happy to get back on it. I'm so happy. I would be so happy to pull up that bullhorn again and start yelling into it for Pinball Monday.
And on
Yeah.
that note, have a
It's
good
down
night.
for
Thank you so much,
tired
David.
ears. Later, David. Enjoy those scores while they last.
We will revisit this competition next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you as well, Austin and Brennan. You guys are welcome to hang around. I know, Austin, you're probably busy. We have the live matching game in about a half an hour. Half an hour?
Cool.
18 minutes.
Appreciate it.
Good chatting with everyone as always. Hope you all
Yes.
have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
I
Hope
will
to see you
see
soon as
y'all
well.
next week. I will have updates on scores next week.
Tell us how that wizard mode is on Metallica next week, Austin.